Hey guys, we're going forward with the TCV bidding and counting SPs towards an extended salary cap whenever the player is traded or waived. So I want to make this video so you guys understand how the NFL does it, how we replicate it in the AFFL, and then how there's really a checks and balance system built into it with pros and cons for each having shorter or longer term deals. So let's first start with how the NFL handles their accounting. For the most part, in the NFL, a player will want the highest total contract value because that means he's going to get the most guaranteed money. Typically that guaranteed money comes in the form of a signing bonus, and typically that signing bonus, the higher the total contract value, the higher the signing bonus. Obviously in the NFL they aren't guaranteed contracts, so the player wants the most guaranteed money. So the owner writes a check to the player. So let's just say it's a $4 million signing bonus over a 4-year contract. So the owner writes $4 million to the player, and instead of having to count that $4 million towards the cap in the all in 1 year of the signing bonus, they get to amortize it or distribute it over the life of the contract. So obviously $4 million divided by 4 is going to be $1 million a year. So every year of the life of that contract, they'll just owe $1 million of it, of the signing bonus, towards the cap. So if that player is cut then or traded in, let's say, year 2, $1 million is already counted towards the cap from the signing bonus. So since he got cut or traded in year 2, 4 million minus 1 million is $3 million. So the team then would take a $3 million hit to their salary cap for that year. So now let's move it over to the AFFL and talk about how we simulate that exact same process. Let's back up a little bit though and talk about the SPs. Typically, we never counted the SPs towards the cap, and so they've only been really thought of as a transaction fee, and that's it. But it's really supposed to simulate that signing bonus. In the recent discussions lately, some owners have talked about, well, why don't we talk about guaranteeing portions of a player's contract? Well, our SPs already do that. In this system, the SP is 10% of the total contract value. So our players automatically get a guarantee of 10% as their signing bonus. Again, we don't pay the players, we pay the league, so that's why it just goes into our salary cap now. So again, the same thing. If a player has a $4 SP, that gets amortized over the life of the contract. The way the contract calculator counts that out, though, it counts as like 10% of the remaining contract value. So it simulates the same thing, and then with the rounding, it's not quite the same. So in a $4 SP over the course of 4 years, the team would pay $4 the first year if they cut them, $3.50 the second year, $2.50 the third year, and $1.50. So it rounds up by 50 cents. But obviously, you see that the idea and the intent is still the same, and it does a really good job of replicating what the NFL does. So to recap, the SPs are our signing bonuses. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you call it. You can call it an SB, a signing bonus, a chew, a cap hit for early waive, whatever you want to call it. But it does count against the cap as 10% of the total contract value as that player's signing bonus. We get to distribute it over the length of the contract as 10% of the remaining contract value, and then it gets added to the cap or subtracted from the cap, however you want to. You have less cap room depending on what year you cut or trade the player. Obviously, still, if you trade the player, that amount that you get taken out of there just get subtracted out of there, and that's where that home or that trading discount always comes from, because that signing bonus is really built into his salary. So it's not really when you cut him that you're accountable for that signing bonus. So that signing bonus portion gets taken out. That's where that discount comes from. I hope you guys all understand that. And now let's go over a few examples of the pros and cons. All right, let's talk about some examples. Right now, the average price of players on AFFL rosters is $3.70 some cents. So let's just round that up to $4. So I believe in this system, the average NFL or the average AFFL player should have a 3-year contract, because that's about an equal balance of pros and cons, and I'll explain that. So let's just look at a L3 $4 contract, a 3-year $4 contract. That SP in the first year is going to be $1.50, and the total contract value is $15. So in the first year, if you cut that player in the first year, it counts $1.50 towards the cap. The second year, $1.50. Again, it does come down, but it gets rounded back up because we just round up to 50 cents. And then the third year, it's $1. So that would be an average contract. So again, you would take like these cap hits in the future. So let's look at the same total contract value on a 1-year deal would obviously be an L1 15. The SP is still the same. The total contract value is the same. And then you don't have to pay anything if you cut him in that year 2, because his contract is over. Obviously, it's a little extreme to pay a player, $15, but if he ends up sucking, you only take a cap hit of $150 this year and then nothing next year. So that's the pro, is there's less to pay towards future SPs, but the con is you have to pay them a lot that first year. So now let's look at the other extreme, the 5-year contract. So for a 5-year contract to have a total contract value of $15, it would be an L5 $2. So obviously the pro on that is you only have to pay the player $2. The con is, and this is what didn't happen when we didn't count it towards the SPs towards the salary cap, is now if you cut that player, it's still $150 the first year, but it's also $150 the second year, again because of the rounding, $150 the third year, $1 the fourth year, and then finally 50 cents on the 5th year. So if you think about it, I mean, what is the percentage that a player fulfills his entire 5-year contract in the AFFL? Let's just say at 66% of the players would do that. And you had the foresight to sign a player like that. It's going to cost you a lot to trade that player even in year 3, and if he ends up sucking in the first or second year, you still are going to take the same cap hit in 3 years as you would in the first year. So that's the con of a long-term contract, is you end up paying a lot in SPs, and remember, those SPs are coming out of your cap. So that means if that player doesn't work out, you're going to pay for him a lot more in the future. So let's look at another example, but of a more expensive player, probably like a tier 2, tier 2, tier 3 player. So again, we'll start off with like a 3-year contract, paying him $14.50 that first year. That's definitely a price that is paid in this league. The total contract value would be $52.50 on an L3 $14.50. The SP would be $5.50 that first year. So it'd be $5.50 that first year, then $4 the second year, and then $2.50 the third year. A similar contract is just 50 cents less of the total contract value, just because of the rounding again, but it's basically the same contract, is a 4-year, 10-year, a 4-year $10 and L410. Same SP is 550. The total contract value is 52, just 50 cents less. And then it's 550 that first year for the SPs, 450, $3, and then $2. And now let's go 5-year deal for that 5250 is an L5 750. So again, you're saving a lot of money on the front end, but let's look at how that SP breaks down over the years. It's 550 the first year, 450, 4, 3, and then $1.50. So you're already paying $1 more than you would in the fourth year, and $1 more than you would in the third year, the third year of a 4-year contract, and even more on the when you count the 3-year in. So what you're going to find is, if you just think, well, I'm just going to sign all these guys to 5-year contracts. I mean, so you sign 5, 6, 7 guys. Do you really think, how many teams keep 5, 6, 7 guys on their team for a really long, for 5 years? So what you're going to find is, if you do this, if you have 6, 7, 8 guys on your team all signing 5-year contracts, sooner or later these guys are going to stink, and you're going to have to cut them, or their salaries are going to get too expensive, because remember, salaries increase 20% every year, so you're going to have to trade them for maybe an equal player of lesser salary, but you're going to be taking these huge cap hits in the future. So again, a $3 $3 cap hit in year 4 doesn't sound like a lot, but you add another $3 to it, another 2, all of a sudden you're going to get $10, $15 less in your future SPs than you would normally have. So now all of a sudden, instead of having $135 to spend, you're only going to have $120 to spend. Again, factor in the fact that our rookie contracts are now guaranteed. Also, you have to remember that from now on, all of our rookie contracts are guaranteed. So let's go over what that means real quick. Basically, in the first round, all first rounders, all their salaries have to add up to $77. That's our rookie compensation pool. So you take 77 divided by 16, and the average first rounder is going to cost $5. So that's automatically a 4-year contract. So you have to pay 100% of the remaining contract value on that. So obviously, if you pay them $4 that first year, that's going to come off the second year. So an L4-5, which would be an average first rounder, if you cut them the first year, that's a $26 cap hit. The second year, a $21 cap hit, 15, and then 8. Same thing in the second round. They have to add up to be $33, all the rookies. So 33 divided by 2 is just over $2. So an L4-2, even a second rounder, you sign him and cut him in the first year, you're going to take an $11 cap hit, and then 9, 650, and 350. So that may sound like a lot, but when you take over the last 5 years, the AFFL owners have, if you add all their SPs and their salaries together, the average has been $110.11. So with a $140 salary cap, you still have $30 worth over the average that we've all spent. So I hope that makes sense. You have to remember that these rookie contracts are going to be guaranteed. So that's, again, another reason why you can't just sign everybody to a 5-year contract. You can, if you want to, you want to go for it. You can certainly do that, but it's really going to hurt you down the road if everybody on your team is a 5-year deal. Also, you have to remember, salaries increase 20%. So you may find yourself 3 years from now with only $110 worth of salary cap, and all of a sudden your players increase 20%, and now you have to drop players just to be cap casualties, but they're all on 5-year deals, so now your $110 salary cap is even going to be less. So you're really going to screw yourself over if you sign everybody to 5-year deals. Keep all that in mind. So let's talk about how we're going to actually implement all this into the system so you guys know where to look for everything. In the old ways, the SP was just added to the accounting report. And the only way you actually knew if you had any SPs really was just to look at the accounting report. And it really wasn't until the end of the year that I would, it was always accessible, but sometimes you didn't even realize how much you had spent until I put up the final finances. What I will do from now on is put them on the salary, make it a salary adjustment, so therefore you'll see it right on your roster. So what happens is it's a $140 cap. Let's say you haven't spent anything in SPs yet, so you trade a player who has an SP of $5. I make a salary adjustment onto your team, and it'll show up as a $5 charge. So on your roster, it'll have all your rosters. Let's say it's $100 in salary, then there will be a salary adjustment of $5, so your salary will then be $105, and then it'll calculate how much you have left to spend against the cap. Now we have the question of, now there are already some teams who have SPs this year. What I propose, and that's just for this year only, since they didn't know that these SPs were going to be counted as a cap, those are just going to stay on the accounting report, and then we'll just go ahead and do the the salary adjustments going forward. So let's say at the end of the year they spend their $100 in salary, they're $40 in SP, so they're right at the cap. Then they would have to pay whatever still remains additionally on their on the accounting record that's present right now. So that's how it's going to go. So it's going to be really easy to know how much cap space you have. You're going to go right to your roster, and bam, your salary is going to be there. Your salary adjustments, which is what you've paid in SPs so far, will be right there. So you'll be able to know in an instant, in one place, how much total money you owe for the year and how much cap space you have to spend. So I'm really actually excited about this. I've always taken a laissez-faire approach from the commissioner's office, how you guys run your teams. It may not seem like it sometimes, but I really want you to be able to run your teams how you want to. The cool thing about this system is then we've always had a $100 salary cap. So you actually can go a little bit over that. You can spend $105. You can spend $110. The con to that is now you're not going to be able to do as many transactions. On the opposite side, if you're a guy who likes to trade, maybe you just get a bunch of guys who are, you get a bunch of cheap guys on your team. Keep your salary around $80, $85. Now you have extra money to trade. You can trade all you want. So that's what I really like about this, is you can do what you want with your team. You can run it like you want to. If you really think this is your year and you just really you're in a bidding war with who you think is your key player, you can run your salary up to $115. Just keep in mind, it's going to be hard to make any transactions or to make as many transactions. So, the counter argument to this system has always been that it's going to limit trading. Well, don't make that a self-fulfilling prophecy and run your salaries up to $125, $130. And all of your contracts are 5-year contracts, so in the future you're getting just massive cap hits. Well, obviously, if you have that strategy, yes, there is going to be less trading. However, if you just want to build through the draft and build through cheap players and cheap talent and potential, then just get these guys on the cheap, spend $70 on your salary, and you can trade all day long. All year long, all through the off season. Even if you're smart about it, you can be trading players that you've already traded for, and so there is no SP, so there is no cap hit. So that's the beauty of this system, is it really allows you this checks and balance system these risks and rewards, and it really gives you an overall balance of how to run your teams across the league. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll answer them for you. And I'm really, really excited that we finally got this through this league. Awesome.